Okay, so I am now live. It's 6 o'clock on Monday, September 20th, and this is Tustin Longevity Center from Tustin, California. We are a integrative medical clinic. Us 5 clinicians basically see everything, and thank you, Catherine, that you can hear us well. All right, good. Well, welcome. Yes, we're TLC. We can take questions. If you're on YouTube, you can type into the chat. And as I see the questions come, I will try to read them and then answer them. This is Talk to the Doctor. This is where you can ask any question you like. And I'm a general practitioner, 40 years experience. My father was in food research with Armor Foods. And so I was raised looking at natural health from my infancy, you might say, and went on to get my degree in medicine. I'm a standard allopathic trained physician, and then did service as an emergency room physician, and then general medical office, flight surgeon work for the pilots, and then went on to go to work with, I guess it was general medicine, but then I worked with Whitaker Wellness in Newport Beach in the early 1990s. I saw and helped take care of Dr. Brzezinski's anti-neoplastin work for a year while he was on trial. And I guess the rest is history, just taking care of integrative, alternative, complementary ways to enhance standard of care in medicine. So you're the reason why we're doing this. And yes, you can add your questions. And if you are not on YouTube and you can't type into the chat, you could reach us at TLC office at tlcdoctors.com. That's office at tlcdoctors, plural.com. And then they'll give me that. I don't have one for today, so apparently none came through. But this is for you. This is for the patients. This is for family and friends. To be able to just talk in general, this is not meant for personal advice. If you are my patient, I'm asking you to call the office and put your specific questions there. But general questions, yes, I can cover that. And so this is created for you because you are why we do what we do. And I have something I want to go over if we get a lull, but I see quite a few questions. So let's get started. Let's see. Robert asks, hello, Robert. He says, I've been doing low carb for 20 plus years, added intermittent fasting, enzymes, water, etc. My triglycerides are always less than 50. Bravo, bravo. Hemoglobin A1C in the low 5s, but my fasting glucose is always above 100. Yes, that's a challenge. Now, Robert, I don't know how old you are, but from your picture that's very tiny, you look like you're middle-aged. And as we all age, we all eventually will pass on. And part of that process is the engine and the efficiency of our engines to burn fuel diminishes. And diabetes, glucose metabolism errors are, in fact, something that we can pretty much expect as time passes. Now, we would want to raise our children to try and get away from all of this processed food, juice drinks, soda pop drinks, candies, and this excessive consumption, because that will burn up their mitochondrial engines quicker. It'll clog their tiny capillary network sooner. So EDTA chelation could enhance your microcirculation, which would enhance the respiratory pathways that are needed for combustion in the mitochondria. You have to have a tiny pipe that gets to the cell. And that pipe, little teeny weeny pipe, is called a capillary. And that capillary needs the water, so you say you're good with that. You don't gum it up with a lot of sticky carbs, so you're doing that. But getting those little capillaries open with enough water and enzymes, which sounds like you're doing, maybe exercise, some form of regular aerobic exercise would enhance the hydraulics, you might say, of the body for pumping that through. And EDTA chelation would be another choice that would be very wise to consider. There is a product that is called TLC Metabolic Formula. TLC Metabolic Formula, I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, I do. TLC Metabolic Formula we made for this very issue. It's called TLC Metabolic Formula. And in it, there is alpha lipoic acid. If you look on the cristae, the little invaginations of the battery, the mitochondria, they have these little invaginations. These membranes are what where the burn occurs and the electron transfer occurs. And there are necessary components. One of them is alpha lipoic acid, CoQ10, and others in this reduction of energy combustion that turns into ATP production for your energy. That energy then can metabolize glucose. So alpha lipoic acid, cinnamon extract, vanadium, berberine, chromium, biotin, and vitamin C. We have found this to be extremely helpful and even really competitive in clinical experience with medicines like Jardiance and metformin for blood sugar control, along with your healthy low-carb diet. So maybe consider looking at some chelation, maybe consider aerobic regular exercise, and maybe consider adding this. Now, I use this right now myself. And I just remember I did my 5-day fasting, and then I do that twice a year. So my fasting blood sugar when I last did it at the end of that was 59. I don't know what my triglycerides were. I can't remember off the bat, but they're very low too. But I need this kind of help to get it down because I was starting to float up as I got closer to 70 years old, floating up to, the high 90s, low 90s. And so fasting, if you can do a prolonged fast, 3 days, that might be a help as well. Let's see. Robert goes on also and says, how do I get my fasting glucose to be around 80, 85? I also have taken 90 EDTA suppositories. I still have more to take. Oh, yeah. Maybe the EDTA suppository is something I worked on in creating, and it is good. But there's nothing like the gold standard, which is if you can find a doctor who does intravenous chelation therapy, because that's 100% delivery of the EDTA. I think we got upwards of, if I remember correctly, that was so long ago, about 15 years ago, I think we got up to as high as 37% absorption and about each suppository 1,500 milligrams. So if you did about 3 suppositories, you were approaching what we would expect delivered from a chelation IV. So I can see that you did that. So just like I said, you might consider this, Robert. You might try doing some intravenous in between your EDTA suppositories. So if you've done 90 EDTA suppositories, then you've had approximately 30 chelations, and you might need 60. I've probably done 200 in my lifetime, maybe more, but I haven't kept count. But anyway, so that with some aerobic exercise and maybe a intermittent prolonged fast of 3 days, maybe done every 3 months, something like that. When you have 3 days where you can be more relaxed and so forth. So that's what my suggestion would be. And then Debbie S. says, hi, Dr. Rita. Hospitals want to do temperature checks with temperature guns pointing at your forehead, pineal gland. Yeah. They refuse to do our arm. How should we handle that? Thanks. I guess I would come with my own oral thermometer and shake it down and stick it in your mouth and wait a minute. I don't like, nor do I allow anyone to point a gun at my forehead for a temperature check. So I just don't think it's right to point lasers towards your eye or forehead area. And apparently something else you can carry in your purse is an oral thermometer. So there you have it, how foolish, how ridiculous this all is. So carry a handheld thermometer with you. Sean says, what are the advantages of high-dose IV vitamin C versus the regular oral form? I am considering taking IV vitamin C, but was wondering if excess vitamin C ends up being discharged in your urine. Well, number one, we don't make any vitamin C. I also think guinea pigs are another mammal that don't make any vitamin C. And so we need this. And the minimum daily required amounts are just a conjecture out of a panel of men decades and decades ago, based on the principle of how much did it take to stop scurvy. Scurvy was, of course, a vitamin C deficiency that they thought was some terrible infectious disease hundreds of years ago. And that vitamin C level that was given to prevent scurvy was therefore considered the minimum daily required amount. But that by no means addresses health or optimal health or longevity. So addresses health or optimal health or longevity. So we doctors who do integrative therapies, anti-aging medicine and so forth, we know that it would probably be far wiser to consider getting in a few grams every day of vitamin C. 1,000 milligrams is 1 gram, so 3 or 4 grams a day. A oral vitamin C, you could learn bowel tolerance if you went from 3 or 4 grams to 5 or 6 grams to 8 or 10 grams and so forth. But pretty much most people, when you get to the 10 gram or higher oral levels of vitamin C, you start getting loose stools. And therefore, there seems to be a limit on the oral tolerance before you start getting diarrhea. When you put it intravenously, you, of course, have none of those problems. And we can go up to 25 grams, 50 grams, 75 grams, 100 grams, even higher has been used, and it's been well tolerated. You must have an enzyme called G6PD, glucose-6-phosphate dehydrogenase. This is an enzyme that is in every cell that's healthy. There is a tiny fraction of a percentage of the population, maybe a 0.05% of people that don't have enough of this enzyme, and giving them high-dose vitamin C could produce a problem. That problem would be hemolysis or breakdown injury to red blood cells. This also has to be checked before you go under general anesthesia in most cases, because the anesthesias they often use in putting you out for surgery require to break down the paralytic things that they give you to relax your muscles for surgery, do require the G6PD enzyme. And so we're pretty solid on the fact that almost everybody has this. It's a rare, I think in 40 years, I know 2 people, and we do high-dose vitamin C's all the time. So you're talking, I'm a doctor who does high-dose vitamin C for decades and decades and decades. And out of all the hundreds of thousands I've done, maybe 2 patients in 40 years have had not a sufficient amount of glucose-6-phosphate dehydrogenase to receive the higher end dose intravenous vitamin C's. They could probably handle intravenously 10 grams, maybe even up to 25 grams. But anything beyond that, the doctor should really be checking your G6PD. Now, why do we do this? High dose vitamin C has a huge amount of research behind it. If you go to Dr. Rhonda, R-H-O-N-D-A, Patrick, P-A-T-R-I-C-K, PhD. She's from Southern California, and her blog site is called Found My Fitness by Rhonda Patrick. If you look on her list of topics, you'll see a huge amount dedicated to high-dose vitamin C. And in the midst of this, collation, she created a packet of information that has all the references that she was able to, I think, as recently as 2 years ago, put together. Now, there is very good research indicating that this high-dose vitamin C is toxic, cytotoxic to cancerous stem cells, and we believe that all of us have cancer trying to emerge in us all the time. And our NK killers, our T cells, our innate immune system is always out there looking for changes in the cell. And if it sees a changed cell that is becoming a stem cell to produce a cancerous line, it will sense this and kill it. And so we believe if you live a healthy life, you get enough sleep, you drink enough water, you do enough modest regular exercise, and as you age, you learn to take care of yourself with certain things like systemic enzymes, maybe some digestive enzymes, and starting to take maybe some extra ways to oxygenate your body with chelation therapy. This vitamin C at high dose intravenously kills every stem cell of cancer ever noted that is in the research. So I will do a high dose vitamin C probably a few times a year, but I'm probably doing maybe 10 or 12 chelations every year and I call it the enhanced chelation because I put about 10 grams of vitamin C in a standard chelation with all the goodies of the B vitamins, methylated, and the C I use is not this corrupted C that we get from China, but we pay the extra higher dollar amount for a beet source for our vitamin C. So the research shows tremendous benefits of supplemental vitamin C. And if you talk to us doctors who are in this field, reading literature, giving it to patients, looking at patients over years, decades, you'll see that we are always probably going to be taking somewhere around 4 grams of vitamin C every day. We have the Vitality C, it's a powder, and 1 scoop has 4 grams in it. So often I will tell my patients as a bedtime drink to take a glass of water and put 1 scoop of the vitamin C, that's 4 grams, and 1 scoop of OptiMag, which is a nice amino chelate of magnesium, and that helps relax your smooth muscles. It helps your sleep. It helps get your bowels ready to move the bowel contents forward for a good morning bowel movement. And the vitamin C is helping you all night doing janitorial services, killing, stem cells, possibly helping with the antioxidant damage of the day. And so that's a wise thing to do. So Sean, I believe the main benefit is intravenous vitamin C is to try and do an anti-aging phenomena to kill off stem cells. Now, if you have cancer, then of course we really use 50 grams vitamin C on a regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly. Some people even more often. Sometimes we go up as high as 100 grams. And I have just seen such good long-term outcome of this on these patients undergoing cancer management with her oncologist. So that is hopefully the answer. Is it being discharged in your urine? There's always the question of, are you just having expensive urine? And that's a comment that many uninformed specialists will say that don't look into this. And of course, most of us, when we urinate and we're taking extra B vitamins, multivitamins, you'll see your urine have this bright yellow color, and that is usually considered the B vitamins, actually. But B vitamins are also water soluble, like vitamin C. And your body, I was telling you about the mitochondrial cristae that are little invaginations to your batteries. You have to understand the hundreds of trillions of reactions every second taking place in your cells. And the absolute amplification of this if you're doing any exercise and so forth. So you need B vitamins, and they're used up in so many of these reactions. You need your minerals, and you need things like antioxidants like vitamin C and the like. So I would rather pee a little chartreuse kind of yellow pee rather than risk being low on my vitamins. And so I've just seen decades worth of people aging before me who have done fantastically well despite having had certain diagnoses that are incredibly challenging and living to wonderful, healthy, functional lives. All right, Lynn says, is there an integrative approach to managing and possibly reversing stage 3 chronic kidney disease for an 80-year-old who has been on a low-carb diet, systemic and digestive enzymes? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to go back to drinking enough water. We aggravate our kidneys, and they're just really big pockets. The glomeruli are just big pockets of capillary bundles that are filtering your urine. And you can't go in there and change the tube or put a new filter in. So you have to drink your water. And what's the one thing most of us don't do enough is drink enough water every day of our life and have our little games. Like I have this big jug I have to drink every morning before I come to work. I drink a second big jug at the end of the day with my evening vitamins. And then I'll drink a 16-ounce bottle, a glass like this, another couple every day. And I just make that a rule. So that will help. But EDTA chelation is known to improve microcirculation in chronic kidney disease. So if you look up, if you go on my website, tlcdoctors.com, you go on the blog, and in the blog of mine, you'll see my paper on chelation, why it works so well for many chronic diseases. You'll see references there, and I have, 30 or 40 references. Look up towards the end, you'll see chronic kidney disease, giving them EDTA chelation has absolutely been a tremendous, repetitious. He repeated his studies 7 times at least with his patients, showing consistent, reproducible results. And of course, all of us who do chelation, we see this in a general rule. I have to say, just recently, there's a gentleman who went on a carnivore diet. I think he's 85, and he's doing wonderful on so many of his aspects. I recently saw him last month, and he had maybe 11 areas of improvement. But his kidneys, he had a 0.2% increase in his creatinine. Very small, but I was surprised that it went up slightly. Now, is he not drinking enough water? He had done maybe 3 or 4 chelations, and usually we'll start to see the hint of improvement after 3 or 4 chelations. But we talked about it lengthy with his wife, and his suggestion was he wanted to pursue it for another several chelations, and then we'll repeat again within a month his creatinine. But that is the first time in about 30, 40 years that I've ever seen a creatinine that actually went up by 0.1% or 0.2 on the creatinine reading. Now, I'm fully expecting it to come down because we are studying this very early, right at the onset of his treatment. When Dr. Lee did all his work, he only checked them after 6 months and followed them over years worth of time. So it might be that there's possibly a little bit of a challenge. Maybe his increased protein intake created a little bit of an issue. But in general, EDTA with adequate water drinking on a low-carb diet and a moderate, I guess, protein will actually 99.99% of the time or 99.98% of the time always help the kidney perfusion, just like it'll help your brain all the way down to your toes. I felt so bad. There was this lovely lady who was a healthcare worker who received the COVID vaccination. I think it was in January on the 13th. And she had lost both her lower legs and one hand and a few fingers on the right from blood clots after her second vaccine was finished around February 3rd. And so went through tremendous crisis and strain. I guess she's home now. I saw an interview with her. And I so wish medicine could be open and free to use EDTA chelation. That would have been an absolute gift to her to help perfusion of her lower extremities and her hands, her whole body. One of the reasons why I think all my patients have done well and no one was hospitalized or died from COVID is because we are always telling about drinking the water, taking the systemic enzymes, giving chelation, giving intravenous vitamin C, and so forth. So just my heart aches for that dear lady and how they try and shut up off-label use of EDTA chelation for microcirculation. That would have really helped her, probably still will. Now, let's see. Let's go to the next question. Welcome. Please let me know. Oh, that's me. Please let me know if you can hear. Okay. I better, lots of questions. I better speed up. All right. Catherine. Abra Lee. Okay. Hi, Dr. Eltharp. I have 2 questions. 1, how do you feel about allergy shots? Can it cause more inflammation and reduce healing for those with autoimmune disease, such as hypothyroid, thyroid issues, or those with leaky gut? Answer is yes, we have concerns for that. I have seen homeopathic remedies used with really rather good help to the patients for their allergies. And these are like sublinguals, not injected in the skin. Remember, if you're managing allergies and environmental allergies, they're triggered and meant to come through the nose and the mouth and lungs. And God put all these mast cells and these receptors there to evaluate what's going on. So if you treat by using a sublingual drop, you are following the intended way to be exposed. Once you go into the skin, that's a totally different methodology for your body to see it. So we have concerns that the indiscriminate use of allergy shots in childhood by allergists may have had some challenge down the road to the outcomes. I don't have any definitive statement on that, but it's something that I have seen over 40 years repeatedly brought up. You could say it's confounded by the fact that the foods are all genetically modified. The dairy became homogenized, pasteurized, the sugars went up, and so forth. So it's a mixed bag to try and answer, but I do try to steer to more natural first approaches before I see an allergist and have them give shots. Let's see. And then your second question, can healing the gut treat or cure hypothyroidism? It depends on how early or how young you are. I think in many cases that is very likely, yes, that you could handle it that way. In fact, there are childhood kids who become type 1 diabetics, and we believe that this is an autoimmune leaky gut attack on the pancreas. And if you can quickly get these kids on a healthy diet, rotation diet, free of all this allergy-prone foods, that you'll see a higher recovery rate of the islets of Langerhans cells and beta cells in the pancreas. I have adults, and we're talking about late 50s, going into their 60s, that I have followed. And these patients all adhere to the healthier lifestyle living and avoiding these genetically modified foods. They did chelation. And over time, we saw their C-peptides, which is a measurement of looking at their ability to produce their own insulin, improve over time. Now, we didn't get one of them off the insulin, but she went down to a ridiculously low maintenance of like 4 to 8 units per day, which is a tremendous comparison to many of them who are on hundreds of units daily by their later years. So yes, I do think the gut is deeply involved in this. And then you would want to have a doctor who could do a reputable food IgG, food allergy test, as opposed to IgE. IgG is the chronic food allergy. You want to have a doctor who understands about gut flora, the need for probiotics and prebiotics, that the cell membrane of the gut is one cell thick, and that you have to put these phospholipids in there. You have to have only a short window of feeding time, so the bulk of the hours of every day are leaving the stomach empty so it can heal, that kind of stuff. Jennifer says, a relative in Arkansas is diabetic and going through amputation to remote for chelation. What to recommend to stop this infection, and will Juice Plus help? Definitely, Juice Plus, an antioxidant, will help the marginal cells be more protected. Remember, antioxidants are like a shield. When you're getting cell membrane hits coming in like this and hurting the cell membrane, whether it's a bacteria or a virus or trauma, and the shield is your antioxidant level. So taking antioxidants would be helpful. If you could get this person to take some EDTA chelation suppositories, like the gentleman earlier we were talking about with Robert earlier, have the doctor compound from a compounding pharmacy calcium disodium EDTA or disodium EDTA in a suppository. I guess I'll put it in cocoa butter, 1,500 milligrams, and have her put that suppository in 2-3 times a day. 2-3 times a week. And there should be improved microcirculation. Of course, they have to drink enough water, of course, be on a low-carb diet, and systemic enzymes, because the things that heal are always the same. So, yeah, that would be a great help to her. Dolphin asks, how long after my husband got the second jab do I have to be careful so I don't get the spike proteins or anything else? Well, we don't have that answer. We do know that they are looking into this. We do know that in 2015 and 2017, if I'm correct on the years, that they had speculated that there would be this shedding, and that they had warnings for contacts on these research papers. But as far as there being any ability to get any huge impact into an adult, I think is minimal. Now, unfortunately, I did hear today through the grapevine that I guess a second newborn infant breastfeeding a mother who was vaccinated had blood clots and did die also, which is the second one I've heard of, which is a tragedy. And I wish to God that it wasn't related to the jab, but I can understand people's concern, because it's not like this is a unknown. It is. But again, I'm seeing patients all the time. We doctors are out there seeing people who are vaccinated all the time and are probably shedding. And I have had really no significant impact other than to see a change in my menstrual cycles, because I do use natural hormones. So there is some transference going on. But I just did all my lab, and this is now going on 10 months, and I really don't have any long-term concerns. what I like is I love faith, hope, and love in the Bible, and I love forgiving, and I love, um, just extending grace and mercy to everyone around me. I've been forgiven so much. I want to extend grace, mercy, and forgiveness to so many others. So please try to not live in fear. Remember, we are not supposed to have fear. The only thing worse to fear is God himself, but we're to have a sound mind. And that sound mind is, for me, each day I read my Bible, 4 chapters. I try and read the Bible cover to cover every year. And it gives me so much peace that whether I live or die, I know that I'll be with God, go to heaven, not because of me, but because of what he did to pay for my sins and the sins of the world. So when I think of those things, maybe issues I might have in my personal life, I have to just always have faith, hope, and love and forgive to all. And that actually helps your immune system. And that actually helps your longevity. This has been well researched and published that people who have a faith and they practice it with fervor and they are married, they do live healthier and longer. So that's the good news. Okay, so hopefully, Dolphin, that'll be a blessing. She also said, my dog is exhibiting neurological symptoms since he did it. She is collapsing on the floor several times a day. Well, your dog is a much smaller biological unit. I don't know how many pounds your dog is, but I would think that the amount of shedding that could occur from a large adult to a small child or an animal might have more significance. And this is something that has to be studied. Unfortunately, they are saying such things that it is safe and effective when there are so many qualified scientific leaders who are saying it isn't proven that it is safe and it isn't proven that it is really effective. So we need more study. We need an open mind. We don't need to let anger or attitude get in our scientific, mindful approach to these things. And we'll just keep on looking. Okay. Let's see. Catherine, I'm doing carnivore. Okay, good. How much meat per day is okay? I get conflicting information. Is creamer in the coffee okay? Is cheese okay? I'm going to say yes, but it should be raw dairy. I use Sprouts for my bulk of all my shopping, and they have organic pastures. Organic pastures is a California-based dairy farm, and the owner came many years ago and lectured to our patient audience. Maybe he'll come again, but it's called Organic Pastures, and it's sold at Sprouts, and that's what I use for my cheese. I don't use cream in my coffee anymore. I drink it black all the time. When I did years ago, I used the raw dairy, and it was heavy whipping cream. You could put butter in your coffee. Butter is, of course, a animal product, so any animal product should be fine. Usually, somewhere in the realm of 30 to 40 grams of protein is the bare minimum for a general adult in anywhere for any adult. For a man, it's closer to 70. So a woman, 30, 40, a man, 70, 80, they have more muscle mass. That's the bare minimums. I think it's very safe for a woman to go to 70 grams. And that's probably what I'm doing every day, is getting in close to 70 grams a day. Because although I'm not 100% carnivore, I would say 90% carnivore in my diet. I do have my doctor's nutrition bar, and they are not completely plant-free. So I can't say that I'm 100% carnivore, but in general, that is the direction that I go. So hopefully that helps you. And then Brie Lee says, what are your thoughts about intestinal metaplasia, precancerous cells and also liver hemangiomas popping up within a patient. Well, that is the issue. All of us over time, something is going to end my life, and we all will die. Now, we want to stay functional and live to a full, ripe old age. And I don't want to be in a nursing home or a wheelchair or being taken care of. My prayer is that I die swiftly, quickly, at a ripe old age without anyone bothered over me. So then if, let's say, I make it to 100 years old, I was part of celebrating someone's 100th birthday last Friday, Saturday. And on that thought, you know, the healthy things we're teaching, the water, the exercise, natural hormone repair, EDTA, chelation to aerate and to have better circulation everywhere, intermittent high-dose vitamin C, a daily nutritional base with enzymes, both digestive and systemic, natural hormones, maybe even like thyroid with aging, certainly digestive enzymes and systemic enzymes. This, I think, is your best bet, along with a logical screening for men, prostate testing, digital rectal exam every few years, a woman doing a monthly self-breast exam, and having her gynecological exam every year or two, especially if she is older and on natural hormones. She should follow a younger woman's schedule, because many times, you know, if they saw me that I'm getting almost to 70, they're going to say, you don't need a pelvic anymore, you don't need this anymore. But I'm on hormones and I do have a cycle, so I should be having myself checked on a more routine, you know, every year or two basis. When we do these kind of things, you're going to have your greatest opportunity to not see the progression of a precancerous lesion. Remember, at the beginning, I talked about there's very often what we call stem cells starting up. And if you really look at it, the theory is that any cancer that manifests itself is really probably something that has been in 8 to 10 years in the making. That it takes a long time for enough of those cells to then start having a hockey stick rise to have a symptom or a lump to be measured or felt. So by taking enzymes, by doing these antioxidant things, doing some exercise, getting good sleep hygiene and good night's sleep, all these things help us repair. So I don't focus or worry about that. And I can say now, sitting 40 years of clinical practice, I really don't see my patients getting new colon cancers. I don't see them getting new breast cancers. And if I'm getting some breast cancers, I would say that is because they're coming to me with the cancer, or maybe over the years they kind of played around and really didn't keep their carbs low enough. They didn't do the chelations. But when they did get a cancer, it was of a low nuclear grade activity. It wasn't a very angry type of cancer. So I have been blessed to see in my own practice here with the other 5 doctors that we all make up. Really, we don't have the standard rate of cancers or strokes or heart attacks or blood clots, any of these things, let alone hypertension or diabetes. And so we know this is the way to live, and we know this is the way to live a long life. And I would add to that, those who came to me 20 years ago when they were already in their late 60s and they're now in their late 80s, because I've been here 20 years, it's amazing, even though they had some serious chronic illnesses, they're still alive and remarkably doing well. So I've just seen that this is the right way to practice medicine. Let's see. Karen, she says, my job might mandate the vax. What would you suggest I do? I'm on ivermectin, and you are my patient, do you write medical exemptions? Thank you for your time. I do, because I think it's not an informed consent that I can give to my patients. They haven't disclosed as yet even what's in the Pfizer vaccine, although they claimed that they would from last August 23rd. There are too many VAERS reported actions. Then, of course, the advisory board for the FDA basically had a near unanimous meeting with 18 speakers all over the world, along with the FDA board members, addressing whether or not to do boosters. And, you know, England said not to do the children or boosters in their health agency. So ours unanimously voted it down. Now, whether or not the FDA will follow this advisory board's advice is to be seen. But if they're concerned, I'm concerned, and I have taken a fiduciary responsibility to my patients, irregardless of what happens. And so I think this is a good point. Karen, I want to read this to you. I just joined today because it just became possible to join today for the first time. So I'm on top of everything. This is the Physicians Declaration, Global COVID Summit, Rome, Italy. This is an international alliance of physicians and medical scientists. September 12th, 2020, they put this together and then presented it to the world this last weekend. And I want to read this to you. It's so powerful. We, the physicians of the world, united and loyal to the Hippocratic Oath, recognizing the profession of medicine as we know it is at a crossroad, are compelled to declare the following. Whereas it is our utmost responsibility and duty to uphold and restore the dignity, integrity, art, and science of medicine, whereas there is an unprecedented assault on our ability to care for our patients, whereas the public policy has chosen to ignore fundamental concepts of science, health, and wellness, instead embracing a one-size-fits-all treatment strategy that results in too much illness and death when the individualized, personalized approach to healthcare is safe and equally or more effective, whereas physicians and other healthcare providers working on the front lines, utilizing their knowledge of epidemiology, pathophysiology, and pharmacology, are often first to identify new potential life-saving treatments, whereas physicians are increasingly being discouraged from engaging in open professional discourse and the exchange of ideas about new and emerging diseases, not only endangering the essence of the medical profession, but more importantly, more tragically, the lives of our patients, whereas thousands of physicians are being denied the right to provide treatment to their patients as a result of barriers put up by pharmacies, hospitals, and public health agencies, rendering the vast majority of healthcare providers helpless to protect their patients in the face of disease. Physicians are now advising their patients to simply go home, allow the virus to incubate, and return when their disease worsens, resulting in hundreds of thousands of unnecessary patient deaths due to failure to treat. Whereas the above is not medicine, it is not care. We cannot sit idle while patients are forced to go home and sicken in place. These policies may actually constitute crimes against humanity. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the physician-patient relationship must be restored. The very heart of medicine is this relationship, which allows physicians to best understand their patients and their illnesses, to formulate treatments that give the best chance for care and success while the patient is an active participant in their care. Resolved that the political intrusion into the practice of medicine and the physician-patient relationship must end. Physicians and all healthcare providers must have the freedom to practice the art of science of medicine without fear of retribution, censorship, slander, or disciplinary action to include possible loss of licensure and hospital privileges, the loss of insurance contracts, and interference from government entities and organizations, which further prevent us from caring for patients in need. More than ever, the right and ability to exchange objective scientific findings, which further our understanding of disease, must be protected. Resolved, that physicians must defend their right to prescribe treatment, observing the tenet first do no harm. Physicians shall not be restricted from prescribing safe and effective treatments. These restrictions continue to cause unnecessary sickness and death. The rights of patients, after being fully informed about the risks and benefits of each option, must be restored to receive those treatments. Resolved, that we invite physicians of the world and all healthcare providers to join us in this noble cause as we endeavor to restore trust, integrity, and professionalism to the practice of medicine. Resolved, that we invite the scientists of the world who are skilled in biomedical research and uphold the highest ethical and moral standards to insist on their ability to conduct and publish objective, empirical research without fear of reprisal upon their careers, reputations, and livelihoods. Resolved, that we invite patients who believe in the importance of the physician-patient relationship and the ability to be active participants in their care to demand access to science-based medical care. In witness thereof, the undersigned has signed this declaration as of the date first written, and so I signed it. So you can go to, I would probably find this on bing.com, bing.com, Physicians Declaration Global COVID Summit Rome, Italy, and sign it and share this with your healthcare provider. I signed it. So yes, I will give a notification or a note saying I'm not recommending this. I don't have agreeing science to be sure I'm doing no harm in recommending this vaccine. I am sure that there is insufficient safety data, and we have to do no harm, and we have to have informed consent, and that's not happening, folks. So I'll be happy to do that. All right. EH, hi, doctor. What's the difference between Vitalzyme and Vitalzyme X? Well, Vitalzyme X is a more potent one, and Vitalzyme is a lower strength one. So they're both essentially the same. The owner of the company came to me because I was, I guess, the only physician in the world using it so heavily. So he wanted my input and years of experience. And I told him the product cost of the Vitalzyme XC was expensive, although very powerful and very good, but that it was financially out of the reach of many of my patients. And I pleaded with him to keep the serrapeptase in it, and he could maybe reduce the potency, by 30–40%, and make it more affordable. So indeed, that's what they did. So it's the exact same thing. It's just a little reduced in its strength. And they measure this in enzyme unit activity, so it's hard to describe. But I was able to meet with the owner and make that change for you. And the other thing I did is I met with another company who knows of me and regards my use of their products. And they asked me how to improve their other enzyme, and that's called Vascuzyme. And they didn't have serrapeptase in it. And I said, I've got to have this in there to have a long-term natural anti-clotting for my aging patients, including myself. And then they went ahead and they made this a improved product because of our patients, because of you. And so I find this discourse, this general question time, so powerful, so informative, such a way that I would never stop doing this. So thank you. That was a wonderful question. And then let's see, what's the next question? Oh, Karen said, if I have to get the vax, which should I get? My answer is I cannot recommend something that has not adequate material for a physician to give informed consent. They are all to be considered not recommended by this doctor. Okay, Catherine has another question. Many events are requiring, if you don't have the vaccine, to get a COVID test within 3 days of the event. Does it mean you test 4 or 5 days before? Because it takes 3 days to get the result, doesn't it? Yeah, that's kind of hair splitting. Usually, I will use our lab. I don't do the testing here in my lab, but I use Primex, another lab, and in 2 days we get the results back. And I ask for the SARS-CoV-2 semi-quantitative antibodies, IgG and IgM. If they're IgM antibodies, it's showing that there's an active fight going on. It's a new exposure or re-exposure. If it's IgG, it shows you have antibodies to it and you are protected. If you do a SARS-CoV-2 test alone for the disease and it's negative, you can get that also done in 2 days with Primex with us. I would say most labs do it. So let's say you want to be somewhere Friday. I would say I would do the test on a Tuesday, and you should have the results. All right. Maybe I would get it at 2 different locations just to hedge your odds, but I'm not a betting woman. Okay. Let's see, Marcia. Marcia says, I'm 73 and recently got diagnosed with osteoporosis of a minus 2.7 in the distal, in the femur neck, in the femur neck. All right, so your hip bone kind of looks like this. It goes into the socket here. And so that this part right here is called the neck, and this part would be the femur. And so in the neck is considered the weakest site. Option other than medications. Well, natural hormone replacement, stomping, and I'm literally talking about kicking your shoes off and stomping on the floor like that, stomping so you can get that shudder up your legs. All of us have been wearing too cushy of shoes, and we're not getting that shock up our bodies. I don't ever remember seeing old women in the Wild West and before, or Queen Elizabeth, humped over with a dowager kind of thing and all this osteoporotic change, because these women had the hardwood shoes and walked on moccasins and jammed their foot on the rocks and everything. So stomp a minute every day. And I also take my arm and I jam it on the table like this. All the time, because I'm demonstrating this all the time too. So stomp, natural hormones, get your vitamin D level up to a 90 or a 100 level. Have vitamin K2 with it of a high quality. I would start with that. Okay. I am going to say a minus 2.7 in the neck is really, not that bad, because yes, it's a minus 2.5 when you are officially told you have osteoporosis, but you're just at minus 2.7, so you're only 0.2 into it, so you're in a very good position to work on this and improve it. And yes, I have people in their 80s that have dramatically improved with these natural hormones and high quality D, the K2, the stomping, and so forth. I exercise almost daily and take vitamin D and some calcium and other supplements. Suggestions? Well, strontium, we have this in our bone health. And then I would do the natural hormones. I think I recognize you, and I don't think you're on natural hormones. I could be wrong. I would have to check. But natural hormones help stimulate the the calcium building signals in your bones. So consider that. Deborah says, have you heard anything about the COVID experimental injections increasing cancers or tumor growth? I have not heard anything that I think is worthy of repeating. So although there have been questions brought up in some articles that I've read, some conversations and lectures that I have heard, I have not seen anything that is of a strong hint or signal in the data suggesting this. So I don't want to make an inflammatory statement because I can't get my hand on something to recheck it. But anyway, that's all I can really say. I do have my concerns, okay? I have my concerns about blood cancers in particular, but I have not seen enough hard data to give it enough a signal for me to talk about it much. Okay, so Marcia goes on, I fractured my right patella in May in 9 pieces and my hand. Well, that's interesting. I would have to see you, Marcia. I would have to get your chart. I would have to look at you and go over this together with you and talk about this. So a minus 2.7 is not quote unquote that bad. But I'd like to see the whole imaging of your bone density and talk about that later. Susie said, I had an MRI for my back. The tech showed me on the screen I have a cyst covering the lower half of my right kidney. Typical blood test hasn't shown kidney issues, but what causes it and how can I get rid of it? The older we get, the more likely we're going to get cysts everywhere. The same with like hemangiomas, the question earlier in the liver. Those are little kind of blood vessel populations where you see a bunch of blood vessels kind of all jammed up in an area. So cysts in the liver, cysts in the kidney, and this is not something uncommon. And we believe that the elastin collagen and vitamin C is so critical to have a good elastin collagen cementing hyaluronic acid formation of the structure of all the trillions and trillions of cells. So over time, with walking and trauma and maybe not enough water, you get a jerk and then it'll rip, and then you get a little pocket, and then the pocket gets bigger over time. So we do believe that these are the vast majority are benign, and that we don't look to trying to see them heal, but we try to look at with a micronutrient assay, what is your vitamin C level? What is your protein level? Are you eating a too low of a protein diet? Some people who are vegetarians are often at risk for this because they're not getting enough protein on a daily basis, or the healthy fats. And the cell membrane is a protein 50%, fat 50%, plus the elastin collagen. And so you'll get these areas that kind of bust out, kind of like stretch marks, okay, with life and time. Therefore, if you're seeing a sag in your neck here, like I am with aging, there's probably sags in my kidneys too. I just haven't done an ultrasound or a MRI either. So see your doctor, look at it. There are conditions, polycystic kidney disease, that can continue and progress and be a concern. But in general, the vast majority of these things are benign and not to worry about it. Let's see, now where are we at? Laura, thoughts on chlorine dioxide for current virus or other viruses like long-term Lyme, Epstein-Barr? Do you have a dosage recommendation or a good source for more information on chlorine dioxide? I've heard much about chlorine dioxide. Intermittently through the years, woven through, especially in cancer treatment as an alternative. I have never used it. And part of the reason why I've never used it is because I have been so successful with what we've done. I have never needed to reach for it. But I'm not saying it doesn't have value. Chlorine dioxide is what they call this bleach thing that was helping some autistic children, mothers would claim. And it is a supplement that is over the counter. I don't think it's over the counter in the United States, though. So I have heard promising things about it, but I have not personally used it. But I haven't really needed it either with the things that we do have. So I would say, it has promise. It should be, if you're going to have a government who makes taxation that takes that money and divvies it for research, you can't have a industry control it like we do now with the pharmaceutical industry influence. It has captured our FDA and our CDC, in my opinion, so that they are now no longer serving the people, but the financial interests of these mega wealthy companies. But if there was, like I have financed my own research here. We'll be coming up soon, I think, in January timeframe is when we're looking to maybe do that erectile dysfunction study on a product. So I have someone coming by. So I'm involved in research. And I've never really been recompensed or paid for it before. So maybe this will be the first time in decades and decades where I might break even or actually make a little money. But long and short of it is, I have chosen to live a more financially humble lifestyle because I love my patients and I love the research. And I don't mind putting in elbow grease and time, and even if it takes my personal money on things that I have thought were that valuable. So if some doctor is so impressed with chlorine dioxide, as I created this own place, all glory to God, and 5 doctors came and we started doing more research, and we were able to do more. So I think doctors should be held responsible also for looking at research and finding a way to get it financed and done. So I have tried very, very hard. I have some patients. We tried very hard to get that EDTA suppository in as a new investigational drug. And I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of dollars and efforts and lectures and research and everything that I got involved with that over. And it wasn't that it wasn't looking very promising. It's just there's a filthy money lucre in the FDA, a hill you can't climb unless you yourself are filthy rich. And it's a shame because I had patients even helping me. I reached out to my patients and I said, can you help me to try and finance, some of the bench research and then some of the animal research and on and on. And we got to the door with this. And unfortunately, the cost to bring it over that door hump was incredibly terrible. So what can I say? Chlorine dioxide is something that is interesting to me, but I can't tell you dosing because I've never used it. Karen, I do mandated weekly COVID PCR do-it-yourself tests. Are these tests safe? Well, they've already said the PCR test is going to be stopped December 31st, that they are not reliable. So what can I say? There is so much oppositional qualified research on either side. I think it's foolish. I have never in 40 years seen a person who's not coughing, not sneezing, not having a fever, not having the myalgias and ache and the tremendous fatigue, and then treat them and screen them for illness. When was this ever science and medicine? What class did I miss over 40 years? It's ridiculous. So they're useless, in my opinion. Laura, sudden diarrhea for several days, suggestions. Well, I would, in general, anytime I get sick, I go on a clear liquid diet for 2 days, maybe 3. and that's like chicken broth or beef broth. And if you've never done fasting, now I can go days on water alone. But if you've never done it, chicken broth, beef broth, and then you could take ginger ale with the sugar in it, the real ginger ale, mix it half and half with water so you get a little glucose so that your gut has nothing to work on. It doesn't have to work digesting food, and your whole immune system can work on whatever irritated it. And if you aren't better in 2 days of a clear liquid diet, then you should be seen. There is Imodium that's over the counter. That's helpful as well. And that would be the first step I would take. If you're not better within 48 hours, or certainly if you're worse than or saw any blood, serious blood or fever, then you have to go immediately to the doctor. Estrella, thank you, doctor, for taking my question. I enjoy listening to you every week. My grandson was born with eczema. He is now 11 months old. What are your thoughts on treatment? He has a fatty acid deficiency. You should know his blood type, and you should get parent essential oils, healthy fats into his diet every day. And you could even put it on the eczema topically onto him, and that should solve that immediately. I bet you, well, I'm going to first assume that his blood type is A, because A's are the one that typically get this. The next blood type that has had bad eczema, psoriasis, would be the O-type blood, but A would be my first choice. I would see a pediatrician. You can't harm a child with natural essential oils topically, and you should give them like a half teaspoon a day, and they should be fine. Remember, it takes about 4 or 5 weeks for new skin to grow out, so you won't see a sudden change in days, but it'll be over the 4 weeks. You'll see the nice change. Aubrey Lee, thank you so much for all your knowledge and taking time, and super grateful. Thank you so much. Okay. Karen, do I make a televisit to get a med exemption from you? Yes. Call the front office, please, and we'll work it in. Sharon, I'm trying to find a natural doctor here in Illinois. What should I expect upon my first visit, or what does your office do for a new patient? My goodness. You should expect a good doctor and a compassionate front office. I mean, our motto is medical care as it should be, because life matters. Where care happens, health happens. That's our motto on the wall. And we're very clear with everyone here, the doctors included, all the way down to the lab, that you are employing us. You are going to spend money on us. You've chosen us, and we should perform with respect and dignity. I would call the office, and I would ask to talk to the office manager. And then I would ask the office manager about the doctors and their background, and what a first visit will look like. Our front office usually will spend many minutes on the phone just trying to help the patient. And then, of course, you can see me and my other doctors, because we're all on YouTube here on Tustin Longevity Center YouTube, and you can get a real feel for what goes on. So we go back to your birth. Were you born by C-section or vaginally? Were you breastfed or not? What was your birth order? Did your parents stay married or not? Did you go through lots of moving and separations? I mean, all these things impact your immune system. And, we ask about trauma and emotional trauma as a child. And were you using lots of antibiotics? Did you have tummy aches? And we go all the way through the decades of your life. That's what a first visit is like here. So Sharon, may the good Lord find a wonderful doctor there. I'm from Illinois, so you should find some. I would say there were at least 10 in my class of 110 at Chicago Medical School who really loved patients. And we each found each other through the years in medical school. And we lamented over the money-hungry stench of medical school and how it was discussed. It was really sad. But you could go to, what is the name of it? acam.org, acam.org for Illinois. Now, that is where Mercola, he went to medical school across the street from me. I knew him. And that was Loyola Medical School. So there's a lot of forward-thinking, complementary, standard doctors there. And the American College for the Advancement of Medicine started there. GLACAM, the original Michigan, Illinois team of doctors, cardiologists, started in that area. So I think you should be able to find someone. Sharon, I wish I live in California. Okay, well, God bless you, honey, and you'll find someone. The good Lord is the provider. We can only do so much, but He's the provider. I take Calm, Karen says. Should I take less so I don't get diarrhea from it or just avoid it? Well, yeah, you have to be careful. Magnesium in Calm is a promoter of the bowel peristalsis. And so you have to taper it and kind of play with it that way. Now, when I ask my patients to use a Vitality C, the vitamin C has 4 grams in it, and I mix it with the OptiMag Neuro, which is how many grams of magnesium in OptiMag Neuro? It has 200 milligrams in a scoop. Okay, so that's just my general suggestion. I have some people that need 4 scoops of each a day to have regular bowel movements. Then I have some that can only use a half a scoop every other day, So you have to find out where your point is on that. So, yeah. Carol says, my husband works in TV and he has to be tested a day before he works. Dr. Klinghardt from Case Science suggested he spray his nose with HOCl. What do you think? Hydroxychloride? You know what I would spray my nose with? I would spray it with Argentine silver because that's an antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and there you go. I really don't know about hydroxychloride sprayed intranasally, but I do know the benefits, and you could use a ton of it. I mean, a lot of it. Carol Travis, he gets the nose swab. Yeah. Karen, I'm so thankful that we have access. All right. Thank you for your kind statements. Okay. Laura, Mike Adams said it cured it for him in a day using CDS. That's why I asked. Thank you. Oh, chlorine dioxide on Mike Adams. Yeah, I think I heard him talking about that because I do listen to natural news as well. So again, I'm not going to say chlorine dioxide is wrong or hydroxychloride nasal spray is wrong. I'm just saying I'm not, I haven't used it, so I can't speak to something I have no real experience with, but I'm not against it. All right, and then I guess Michael says, is the Vitalzyme systemic enzyme you sell in a gel cap or powder? Is a cap? Yes. So you would call our office 714-544-1521 and ask for the vitamin shop, and they'll be happy to give it to you. Sharon Ryan says, what organization did you recommend that? Oops, you just answered. Oh, okay. All right. acam.org. All right. All right, so folks, I think that's probably everyone tonight. We went way over, almost an hour and 20 minutes. Well, we had fun, covered lots and lots of things. Hopefully you liked the declaration and the doctors that I associate with. And have a blessed and great day. Wednesday morning, we'll be here 9:45 till 10:15. So if you have some real important questions, bring them up. Call your congressman. I called mine today. I called Dianne Feinstein. And I left a message with Dr. Dianne Feinstein, about my opinions on the vaccine and mandates, especially for children. And I did the same with my local Congresswoman, Katie Porter. And she did pick up her office staff, and they were very nice to me. So please call every week and let them know what you think and feel and want so they can represent you. God bless. Take care.